Hi everyone, it's Dr. E and I'm here with your week 10 instructional video. Can't believe it's already week 10. So I'm just going to jump right into it. We have a lot of ground to cover today, so I don't want to just chatter on. All right, so I want to make a note of the fact that the week 9 written response, some of you may have not submitted that work, and I really would like to provide you with feedback before you then take that work and collect it, revise it for your portfolio assignment. So please take a look at this information and let me know if you have any questions in the Q&A area or by shooting me an email. All right, so for week 10, you have a couple of things that you need to kind of prep, right? So the first is reading an article by Carrillo et al. I mean, there are multiple authors, but Horning and Carrillo are the first listed. Effectively and efficiently reading the credibility of online sources. This is really adding information to what we read, I think it was 2 weeks ago, from Lunsford on evaluating sources. So just adding a few things for us to consider when it comes to scoping out our sources and making sure that they are reliable and effective, doing our due diligence, right? And then I've asked you to find a food-related source. So a podcast episode, a food show, an article, something, and this is what you'll be applying the ideas in this article to. All right, you're watching the video. Paper portfolio video is posted right here. Please make sure you're taking some time to walk through that. There are quiz questions, I'm just saying. And so this week we're changing it up a little bit. We have a mind map that is going to be due on Thursday, and then your quiz, right? So on Thursday we have the mind map here, and then of course your participation quiz on Sunday. So I do want to warn you that it looks like not only kind of a basic week, but even an easy week because we don't have multiple things going on necessarily, but the mind map is going to take you some time. So I suggest you put the time into it, right? All right. If you scroll down, of course, you're watching what will appear as number 1 here. And then to review, this is the document with our reading for this week. I've also placed the portfolio guidelines and the template here so that you can kind of get ahead on that if you'd like to. Remember, that's not due this week. All right, so here is your mind map instructions. You're going to need to take some time with it, but the first step is definitely to make sure that you've read and engaged with the information in Carrillo's article, because that is the foundation of the work that we're doing this week. Okay, so part of your work is going to rely on finding that food-related source. So usually this is something that I give you, but I want you to do your own searching and find something that's interesting to you, right? You have a little bit of freedom this week to find a podcast, a video, an article, something like that related to food. But I have specified, think outside of the things that we've utilized. Don't just look at TED Talks. Don't look at the Sporkful podcast. There's so many things beyond that. Just takes a little bit of searching. You can search for food-related podcasts or articles, but you can go to, if you have a favorite podcast and they've had one week they actually talked about food or food culture or something like that, it's fairly easy to find information. You just want to maybe specify the topic a bit. So don't just look for food podcast. Maybe if you're focusing on a specific food or specific element of food culture, that can help also. But I mean, most news magazines have food columns, most different podcast distributors have something that may be related to food. I listen to quite a few on my own, so I know that they're pretty easy to find, but it should be something that interests you, right? There are bloggers out there. There are chefs who have written pieces, Jose Andres, I'm thinking he's such a well-known chef, but he does a lot of philanthropic work. He is in Ukraine helping feed Ukrainians. So there are various ways that you can incorporate, if you're interested in politics or geopolitical, happenings, you can find something related to food. You're just think outside the box a little. Okay. So that's something you want to focus on. And I put, we want to really work on finding reliable sources. So you can find something that works for you, but then we're going to dig in and figure out, like, is this a reliable source or is this just, a random blogger or something, After locating a text, and I put text in single quotation marks because a text can be a video or a podcast. It's something we are, quote, reading or listening to or watching to analyze it in different ways. All right, we want to apply the lateral reading steps that are identified by Carrillo and the other authors, but we're also thinking about Lunsford's Evaluating Sources chapter. So we're going to create a mind map that includes this information. So I have 5 bullet points. You'll have 5 little, circles radiating out from the center. So the first is you're going to offer a summary, right? A few sentences. Next, you're going to do some searching to discover information about the author or the speaker or the interview, right? Who is this person? Why should we trust them, right? Or maybe we shouldn't because you can't find credible information. Next, you're going to follow tip 1 in Carrillo's article, which means click on hyperlinks. So this is pretty easy for articles or online texts because those often have those hyperlinks. But for videos and podcasts, we may have to think outside of the box since we don't always have links. So I put, see this week's instructional video. I'm going to get into that in just a second. Engage in further lateral reading, which means doing a little bit more digging, opening more tabs. So does your speaker reference something that you can research? Where did you go and what did you find? And then finally, you're going to utilize the number 3 approach on page 39. What did you discover and where? So I put, you have 5 bubbles emanating, but you can choose the template, right? You can go to Canva and create your own, or you can utilize these. You just have to put aside some time to work through just the structure of your mind map, but don't waste so much time on just how amazing it looks. Yeah, it needs to look organized just so that I can read it and follow your ideas, but I'm not expecting perfection. I'm looking at your ideas and how well written your ideas are, right? So what I've done is so this is Canva. Okay, so you can create a free account. It's really easy if you haven't, and I've put the link in there. So you can just look through all these different little templates. All you do is click on one, and then you click use this template, and it will then open. It will then, oh gosh, it's going to make me do this, isn't it? I already have a free trial. Anyhow, once you get logged in and whatnot, it will open a document for you. And I just chose one at random and started putting information together. So just as an example, I went through something that we have worked through together. So it's Ron Finley's TED Talk. I put a summary here, and note that I played around with the sizes because not everything fit, right? So you can play a little bit, don't waste too much time, but you want to make sure that your ideas fit, right? And you can change the text size, excuse me, excuse me, and you can just play around. So I have one summary. I have one for the speaker credibility where I just did a Google search for Finley. I found out that he's moved on from LA Green Grounds and he's actually with the Ron Finley Project. And I went into his, so I'm giving you as my audience an idea of where I went, what I found, right? Specifics. I went to the About section and found this. One step was to open new tabs. So I put, to extend my deep dive, I wondered about the number of vacant lots, right? So opening new tabs for a video, just do a little bit more searching. So Finley offers a lot of information. He talks about how many tomatoes you can grow or how many Central Parks are in vacant lots and all this stuff. So I thought, well, why not do a little bit of digging? His talk is back from 2013. What's the vacant lot situation now? That's just one thing I could dig into that he references. So I put, Finley shares this quote and I cited him. And since the talk was from 2013, I wondered about what it would be like now. So I just did a quick and dirty search of LA vacant lots in Google and found the LA Curbed website. The web page, and then the specific site is Los Angeles' tens of thousands of vacant lots map. So I'm giving you as my audience an idea, like if I needed to find this, I could just search by this title, right? It's in quotation marks, I'm referencing it. And it shares that there are still thousands of vacant lots, which many of which are publicly owned. And then this is the click on the hyperlink section. So I put, on the TED Talk webpage for Finley's talk, I clicked the See Speaker Profile. So if I go to Finley's talk, you click on, so this is, clicking on the hyperlinks that are offered. And for most things, podcasts that are posted online, especially, I mean, written articles and things are always going to have hyperlinks. So if you click on this, it just takes you to, always super slow. Let me pause. All right, it finally loaded. And so usually when we have, this is almost like an about section from another website, but it doesn't really give us very much information. It gives information that Finley talks about in his talk. So it's just repetition. And I wanted to do a little bit more than that. So I saw this quote here, an inspiration to all, Ron Finley is a true urban farming hero by Andrew Gunther, Huffington Post, and this is the date, so October 3rd, 2011. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. What did Gunther write about? So I searched the Huffington Post, Andrew Gunther, and then found, give me 1 second to find my link. All right, so I wanted to show you that this is the Curbed LA website, and this is the Los Angeles's tens of thousands. So that's going back to my section right on opening new tabs. And then so for clicking hyperlinks, I went to Finley's about section, saw this quote, then kind of digged in a little bit deeper about that and found Gunther's article. And this is where he really digs into his first time meeting Finley, what Finley's project is. So just adding to our understanding of Finley's articles, because remember, and you know, this is something that's in this week's reading, Finley's work is the primary source, right? That is the source I am looking at. That is the source that is essentially in the middle, right? And so then we're thinking about secondary sources that help us understand what Finley is arguing and talking about. So the, you know, LA Curbed site is a secondary source. This article by Gunther is a secondary source, right? So it's just something to think about. You know, we want to use that kind of language so that we don't get, so our minds don't get chaotic and confused about some of this information. All right, so going back to the mind map assignment, the last thing is we're going to utilize approach number 3 of Carrillo's article. You know, what did you discover and where? And so that's something I did not add just yet. That's something for you to work on, that 5th element. So if you're working with Canva, you have to play around just a little bit to add things. So if you wanted to add a heading, you would go to the text element on the side. If you wanted to add, you know, one of the, you know, you have to kind of play around, but again, don't waste too much time. And again, this one, this little section that I added does not look exactly like this. It's not the same color green, but that's okay. You know, you just add it and then go into the text section, add a subheading, you know, drag that down here. You can make it a different size, or you can make this a different size. So this is where you would do that last bullet. So Canva is, I think, something good to play around with just in general, because a lot of assignments may have you do something that's visual like this, and not just a mind map. Canva has other things that you can utilize as well for Instagram posts, any of that. So when you're done with it, you just want to click the share button. And so what you can do is download that, and then that's what you will upload in D2L for this week's work. All right, so going back to week 10, that's essentially what you have due on Thursday. And then the only other thing you need to worry about for this week is your quiz, which will have questions from the portfolio assignment. It will have questions from this week's reading, that kind of thing. And it's not a bad idea just to look over the schedule and where we are going in the next couple of weeks, especially if you have some concerns about your grade. We have a lot of large value grades left in the semester, which is a good thing, because if you really want to raise your grade, these are opportunities. But it also means if you don't follow the guidelines and everything that you need to for those assignments, it can also negatively impact your grade, and we don't want that, right? So just make sure that you're keeping up with that information, posting those questions if you have them. All right, everything is going super well. It's week 10. I appreciate all the effort that you've put in so far. Just push yourself for, what, 6 more weeks. You got this.